a choice right now, between fear and love. It's just a rock.
Out of the dark night of ignorance and into the shining light of truth.
Expounding reality.
A population of citizens capable of critical thinking.
We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are.
There's a level of reality where everything dissolves into an ocean of energy.
We empower our experience by insisting on our authenticity.
That's very profound. Very.
Expanding reality.
Jeannine Burgess, welcome back. It is so nice to see you. You are rocking the sleeveless so we can see them shoulder tats there, and they look so cool. I was complimenting you on your work there. You had a hilarious story about your tattoos. They're all meaningful, and it's beautiful. It is so cool to see you again.
Yeah, so good to see you.
Looking forward to reminding the audience at all the ways to find you and your amazing work, your former appearances on the show. We got the opportunity to have a hangout with you, and it was a lot of fun. So that's going to be linked down below. If you guys are interested in exploring that as well as value exchanging with your favorite show here, you can do that right down in the link marked Patreon, and that is where all the expanded content is being hosted. That's where at the right tier, you get to come hang out with us and talk to Jeannine and ask her questions about her tats and things like this and artwork and all her cool experiences, which we're going to dive into here today. But again, guys, that's how you support your favorite show. Link down in the show description, as well as the afterthought, which we're going to have after this amazing conversation that you are definitely going to want to stick around for, because I'm going to connect your insects to UFOs and the cavity structure effect and Brevinogoff. And we're going to talk about people make UFOs out of bug wings. Did you know this?
I've heard something like that.
Oh, it's so cool. And we're going to go into it in the afterthought.
I've tapped into that.
Yeah, CSE,
briefly.
the cavity structure effect. Very cool. And it's perfect with your work. So just want to, again, remind everybody, always find her and those things linked down below. Jeannine Burgess, so good to see you. What have you been up to?
Oh, just all the things. Doing lots of marketing for my new deck, which is awkward and uncomfortable for an introvert, but
get out there and brag about yourself. The things you've done. Go.
Yeah. No, and it was great. The Kickstarter kicked off. It lasted a month. We had a successful campaign. First time ever using Kickstarter on either end. So I just dove right in and I adjusted as I went, and I reached my goal and then some. So
would you recommend that for folks? Like, if anybody's been apprehensive or they don't feel like Kickstarter is that they don't have something worth investing in, something like this, do you have any advice for folks that are interested but timid perhaps about that?
I think if they believe that they have a solid investment to put forth, but there's a lot of back end stuff. You've got to really have the audience, and I have a small audience, and I know that I have their full support, but it is like small numbers. So that's really why I chose Kickstarter to actually put the thing out, because I know Kickstarter has its own audience. So I could kind of gather maybe a little bit more. Going forward, I would definitely do more like paid advertisements. I was watching a few other people who had similar products that were advertising all over the place, and they did quite well. So, way over and beyond what I made. But, I don't know, there's a percentage of people who do not get full backing. And so that the campaign closes and, cards don't get charged, and you've got to kind of start all over again.
Interesting. So if you don't reach your goal, you don't get anything.
Yeah.
See, I know nothing about this. You're informing us, actually. This is a mini little clinic here. And I didn't know that Kickstarter had its own audience that you could lean on that would, search your algorithm or see that you had something to invest in, and they would then resonate with it and go, oh, wow, I'd never heard of this, but I'm glad I did.
Yeah. So they have like super backers, people who have backed 50, 100 different projects. and it might be as little as $1, or, you know, they might actually buy the product, which is kind of cool. So there are
a little Shark Tank or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It has its own rhythm. It's got its own energy, but it definitely worked better than just me putting it on pre-order on my website, because I wanted it to be bigger.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it might be a good avenue, and it's not something, honestly, that I've even looked into. And so the fact that you not only looked into it, faced your introvertedness and got out there and kicked ass at it, and then succeeded in a month. I know people that have those campaigns up for quite a while that don't come close, and cards don't get charged.
I did quite a bit of research. And I think the reason that I had it in my head in the first place is I started following some of the other deck creators. It's like a whole world that I just tapped into, and I had no idea, you know, and this is like what we were talking about before. It's like that accidental, like you trip over the door frame and then you're in another room and you're like, wow, I didn't know this room existed.
Like that was a portal, actually.
Yeah. So I just like tripped into this space of Oracle and Tarot creators, and I started seeing what they were doing. And there are people out there that's what they do, is they create decks, and that's how they raise funds. So
this is such a cool realm. I've got such a great appreciation for this place lately, especially being on the side of the creators, not the whispering in the ears of the creators that have all the resources for now and blah, blah, blah. It really feels like this place is not only your source of inspiration and creation, but also it offers you all the avenues, tools, and things that you need if you're looking in the right spots, right? And I'm going to say lack of lizard turd resources has been the thing that's been the most beautiful creation in our experience, the limitation, or the perceived limitation, if I will, because really this is what sets you free. This is where you have a beautiful community of aligned folks. And I'll take 5 aligned motherfuckers over 1,000 that share none of my shit any day. And I can see this whenever I look at content I'm going through and I find someone amazing that's doing incredible art. 10,000 likes, 0 comments, 2 shares. I'm like, what are we doing here? You know? And so it's number one, you can see a lot of BOT and bot be like you bought them and paid for them. And I think that that's really what the bots are all about, is this sort of perception of grandeur. But what you have is an aligned community. And that's what we have here as well. And I love that. That's way more valuable in my mind, because they actually will invest in you and share your shit and sing about you and stuff like that. So I think you have the best gift of all. And that's why you were so successful. And of course you reached your goal. It makes sense.
Yeah, it does. You know, and I'd love to build my audience a little bit more. It's, you know, going back to being an introvert, it's hard to really put yourself out there. But there's a whole community of artists that it's been my goal to connect with. And I did kind of dip my toe in last year.
Oh yeah. You're at the resonant frequency. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about it. Do you want to get into what you get to experience last year that you're considering, and we all would, a level up? I'm going to say it's an obvious vibrational match, and of course, but go ahead.
Yeah. And it actually started it was a gathering at the house of a mutual friend, Christopher.
Shout out.
He had Chris King. He had a gathering of, you know, our community when he was still in Georgia. He's in California now. And, you know, there was some plant medicine, there was some meditation, and it was just like a fun little party. But we did gather around in a circle at one point, and it was all about manifestation. It was like, what are you calling in? And so we just, you know, kind of charged it up. And mine was, I wanted to get involved in the visionary art community, which is also the psychedelic art community, because the art world is kind of gross. Like the traditional art world, I don't know. I always think of like New York, and like when I was in art school, that was sort of what you're pushed to. Like you create art in order to go into a gallery, in order for these rich people to buy it. And it's basically money laundering, right?
I saw this great video of these two snooty, artsy dudes smoking these silly looking cigarettes. They weren't even cool looking cigarettes, and they weren't even cool looking smoking them. And they were outside, and they were just kind of doing their thing outside of an art gallery. And it said, people who buy art above those dudes, and they moved out of the way. And there's like a homeless dude with dreads in the back and just like fucking dirty and shit. And it said, people who create art.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's that world, right? I feel like maybe I don't look so homeless, but it's like, I that's what grossed me out about the art world. So my entire existence as an artist, which ebbed and flowed, was just for myself, for the need to create. And again, we were talking about that earlier. There's that when you are a creator, you need to make things, and if you ignore it for a time, it will eat you from the inside out. So I would just create for myself, and it literally started, just as like doodles or whatever. I'd be at work and downtime, just pen sketches. So but the art world grossed me out, and I didn't want anything to do with it. So it's like, what's the alternative? Create for yourself, or is there something else? And then, with the internet and all of the socials, you start seeing like, oh, okay, there's something else going on. There's a different approach. It's a different vibe. It's a whole, it's art, it's a community, but it's got a whole different energy. And that's what I wanted to tap into. And of course, like the grandfather of that community is Alex Gray. Yeah. And that's why I was like, I need to get on his radar. And so that's sort of what I put into that group manifestation was, I want to dip my toe in the visionary art community. I want to be involved in that. I don't know how, but there's all these galleries now that are waking up, like in Colorado and different places. They're, involved in maps. There was like a lot of that going on just last week. And then, we closed that group. The meeting was done. The manifestation went into the universe. And, I was just scrolling the internet, and Alex Gray had a visionary art workshop intensive coming up. And I was like, maybe I'll apply. And, you select 3 of your best works, submit them. It's definitely, you don't just sign up and go. They have to look at your art and your portfolio. You link all your socials. And so I submitted it, and I just kind of let it out to the universe again, as you do when you're manifesting. And yeah, about a month later, I was at work, and I got the email from Allison Gray and accepted into the program. Out of like 130, there were 20 of us that were accepted. So it's like,
amazing.
Is this my life?
To me, I'm like, of course, because I've seen your work. Yeah. We have your work. You featured your work. You did something special for our journal here. You're sharing it like crazy. So to me, it makes complete sense. But I love that it's so whimsical and blows you away so much.
Yeah.
It's cool as shit.
On the one hand,
it's cool
it is.
As shit. It is so cool.
It is like, of course that happened, because like there were like 12 of us that put it into the universe and charged it up. But, also it's like, holy shit,
It's incredible. Yeah.
But yeah, so that was my big thing that I did last year. It was for a week in July at COSM, which is in upstate New York, which is it's a 42-acre property, and they have a big old guest house that's a Victorian mansion, and you stay in there. And I had a really awesome room that was probably haunted, and
so cool.
It's they just opened Entheon, which is like a 3-story museum of visionary art. The first floor is other visionary artists, and then the second 2 floors are theirs. And I think they're like recalibrating, because things just change. But it's a really cool property. So there's a lot of different things going on. And then they have a full separate building called the Art Lab, and that's pretty much where we spent like 14 hours a day. So it was an intensive. You start the day with like a lesson at 10, and then you start painting from noon and you go until midnight. And you had to work on 2 paintings, and then they're either working on their own paintings or they're going around the room and they're talking about what you're working on. And it was a very humbling experience because, it's one of the other girls that I was in the program with, we were talking kind of early on, and it was like, when you're like the gifted kid in school, like you're in art class in high school or college and you're like in the top 3. But then you take those top 3 and you put them all in a room and you're like, oh,
like, damn, I'm intimidated and inspired at the same time.
Yeah. And you're in the same room as Alex Gray, just like watching him just like tinker on his painting or work on a portrait, just like super casual. And it's like, yeah, it was an amazing experience. I didn't sleep for the first 2 days. It was like,
because of the haunted room or what?
Just everything. No, it was after that the one of the guys that worked there was like, oh, is it because of the ghosts? And I was like, the what?
Damn, maybe, I guess. Shit.
I don't know. No, it was a really great experience.
Very cool. It's so exciting.
So I would highly recommend, even if you're not an artist, they host a lot of workshops. It's not just them. So it's definitely an experience. If you are into art at all, it is worth the pilgrimage. They like open to the public on the weekend. You can go tour the museum and the house. It's, the Entheon is a big museum, basically. And then the house is a gallery. All of the rooms have all of their art. So, and it's just a whole experience. It's great. So if you just like want your mind blown with visual art, it's the space to be.
Incredible. And those listening out there that don't have a visual reference for this, he's the guy that does the Tool album art covers.
Yeah.
Incredible.
He's got a Tool shrine in Entheon. It's like a whole room that's dedicated to his collaborations with them.
It's so cool. And Danny Carey has his own drums painted, and designed by him, their heads and all this stuff. It's so cool. One of my favorite drummers ever, the Danny Carey. Amazing experience that you got to have. So then the question is what would you, and actually don't answer that. I was going to say, what would you manifest next, but I know better for you than to share that. So let's talk about the mandalas that you create, because these things are absolutely incredible. And if you'd like, I have your Wings of Transformation deck that we can pull up and go through a few if you want, as we talk about this.
Yeah. I mean, we can talk about the mandalas first, because that's kind of what
Let's do that.
Unlocked this door.
Yeah, and I'm going to brag about your Mandala Oracle deck that we have here in this little custom thing that I made for it. If I can get it out. They're tight. It is the first one, and it's a prototype. You got the better one. Anyway,
I do have the better one.
And we pull these daily. Mary and I would just walk over and pull one. I get the Sovereignty card constantly and the High Priestess all the time. So I'm a little High Priestess there. But these are
birth
incredible.
Of a goddess.
Yes, absolutely. Sacred Flow, and they're amazing. Not only are they beautiful artwork, but the messaging on them is incredible. So guys, I highly recommend it. All of this is going to be linked down below, her website and how to find her. So definitely check that out. So let's talk about the mandalas.
Yeah, they started, I think I started tinkering with mandalas way before those paintings came about. It was just sketches in a sketchbook. And, it was out of that need to create, just being a creator and needing that space to ground, where it's like you have this energy, it's got to come out. And having been a visual artist for the majority of my life, that's just how it comes out, and I tinkered with other things. There was a period of time where I was just like knitting, it's like whatever creativity. And for whatever reason, I don't know, we'll call it, because it's my Capricorn moon, I have this need to like collect things. So when I was knitting, I was just knitting hats. So I'd have stacks of hats.
I bet you're a good forager, like a berry forager.
I don't know. I'd love to have the chance to like actually have.
I didn't know if you'd gone out there and just like you picked the shit out of berries just because you collect them all.
We did that a couple of weeks ago. We went for a hike and there was like black raspberries just all over, and we had a little forest snack. But yeah, it wasn't really intentional to, I didn't understand sacred geometry. I didn't know about sacred geometry back in like 2005 when I was just doing these sketches. And then a lot of life happened. You know, it's like a 10-year period of like me not studying art, not being in school for art. I went and studied yoga. There was like a lot of life of like marriage and divorce and just different things. And then I kind of came back to art while I was on summer break for school. I was studying health science, which is what I ultimately got my degree in. So ironically, I don't have an art degree. And
you didn't need it.
I don't know. It does sort of like stuff you into a certain box, and then kind of find your own path with that. But yeah, it's like, so it was 2014. I had just gone through a really heavy breakup and I needed to, I know I've told this story before. I don't know if here, but yeah, I needed to heal my broken heart. And I thought I would do a giant mandala. And I had a spare piece of plywood in my attic, and I brought it into my spare bedroom, which was my studio. And I just stared at it for a little bit and decided that if I was going to paint the heart chakra, I might as well do all the chakras. And if I was going to do all of them, I might as well start at the root, start at the beginning. And that turned into painting all 7 chakras in a 3-month period. And most of those mandalas that are in that deck they're 41 inches. And how did I select that? It's just because that was the width of that piece of plywood. And then all of the other ones that I did over the 10 years after that just kind of stayed the same size. There may be a significance of 41. I'm not entirely sure, but so I started with the root chakra. I did all 7. And by the end of that summer, I had definitely transformed. And I don't know if there was something different energetically going on in 2014, but Ben had a different experience separately because we hadn't met yet. But yeah. Yeah, it's actually the first one, if you go back a few, where I'm working on the floor. Yeah, that's that first day. And they're all that big. So, yeah, that kind of opened the door. And so I had finished it in August of 2014 and had a massive transformational year. And by the end of December, I had worked out my first gallery opening. I went to a friend's gallery opening. She was also an artist. And yeah, so that's all of them. And that's the new set. And I got talking with the gallery owner, and she was like, I need a January artist. So my paintings were on the wall at her gallery for 3 months. And so I went from being in school studying science to having 7 pieces of artwork, 7 giant pieces of artwork on a gallery wall for 3 months. So it was like, that was easy.
Yeah, of course, by the way. I hope that of course becomes the thing that you start saying the most. This, by the way, lights me up. If you're audio only audience, thank you. And check the video version down in the show description. By the way, I want to let you guys know that these video versions we do host absolutely for free. I'm trying to get this to stop moving, but we'll just let it ride. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be a carousel.
Gotcha. We're just letting you guys know that we're doing our best to get folks off of the poop tube over there. Poop tube, we did not put Crow 777's episode on, so you guys cannot find it there. It had some issues with that, so we just decided not to. We're migrating over, so all of the video versions of the show here are completely free, ad-free, by the way. Which is another great reason alone to go over there is they're ad-free. Now, if you want to participate in the other stuff, you can, but you don't have to. But the video versions of all of this stuff, guys, and most of the episodes back well into the 200s there are all completely free. So go check that out. And highly recommend this for the video versions, guys. Because, and back to what I was saying here now that the picture came back around, this room just, I feel so comfortable in this. I've got a deep breath going. And it's your art that just lights it up.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
And that's the thing. It's hard to translate my art from a picture. It absolutely needs to be seen in person. And it's the vibration of the paintings.
Yeah, you have a shield that you put up. This is a force. It's an energy signature.
Color is a vibration, and you know, shapes and all of that.
This is just so cool. This would be a good light switch cover.
Nice. That was a tarot box that I did for my brother.
If you cut a hole right here, little slit, and then a couple for your screws, man, that'd be a dope ass. I'm gonna go ahead and plant that one in your garden, Jeannine. There you go.
Nice. Yeah. So when I had my studio when we were living in Maine, I had it for 2 years. And so one of those pictures that you had shown previously of all 7 chakras together were, that was my studio space. And it just had a 30-foot wall that the paintings just fit perfectly on. And it just changed the whole vibration of the room. So you kind of have to experience them close up. You know, it's like you have to change your vantage point. You know, you can go far away and look at them from across the room, or you can go like nose to the painting and experience something different. It's hard to explain. And I'm not really sure the reason why, but they carry their own vibration.
Yes.
That you just can't get from, you know, a small thumbnail on Instagram.
These are church windows of old. You know, I mean, those carry a vibration. It's cymatic. You've got music, light, sound, feeling, emotion, everything going on in here.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
And
tuned.
so
you know, this looks like cymatics to me, especially these.
I know, right? When you see them all as thumbnails and then you look at like a grid of cymatics, it's like, this is the same picture.
Overlaid or correlated any of your images to cymatic patterns?
I don't know. After the first year, I did start getting a little bit more intentional with my geometry. The first 7 plus were just kind of me putting circles inside of circles and then filling them in with shapes.
See, I love this though, because it shows us though what you came from in your process and how this is built and constructed. This is so cool. Yeah.
And it was actually this one, which, audio only is not going to know what I'm talking about.
It's okay. There's a free video version we just let them know about down in the show description. You guys just click on it. It's completely, go check it out.
It was the following year that I found my accidental sacred geometry. It was like, I made the external circle a little bit smaller and the inside circle stayed the same size, and I kind of accidentally created the flower of life.
I love this accidental ancient wisdom that you stumbled across. Yeah, the mystics would be so upset that you acquired it so unintentionally, right?
Yeah, and the sweet irony is that my dad was a mathematician. He was an aeronautics engineer and designed jet plane engines, and was, just using like math and trigonometry and geometry every day. And math just stressed me out, and I'd be in tears every time he tried to tutor me. And if he only saw me now,
dude.
Because sadly my dad passed when I was 16. So he never actually saw this part. So he was also an artist. He did oil paintings and such, but I think he'd really dig this.
He would absolutely dig this. This is my favorite picture of you, by the way, because you just look so like in your element, but like it's new. You've got this vulnerable awareness going on, right? And it's just awesome. I just love that picture. You look like you're glowing just in front of this beautiful artwork that you created. It's a cool sample of your art as well.
Yeah, that was a small gallery opening just shortly after we moved to Georgia, just a few months. I had connected with an art group here before we even moved, so I kind of got in with this community. So it's cool. There's a really strong art community around here. And a lot of really cool people around here. That's what makes Georgia worth it.
I'm getting some indigenous vibes with this.
Yeah,
with
that
the feathering here, and this one as well with these. The South American vibe.
Yeah, the one of the bigger one is one that I did for Ben. I call that Eye of the Seer.
I love it. It's shamanistic.
Yeah, it definitely was like a full shamanic journey going through that painting.
It's incredible. I mean, it's just so cool. Audio only audience, check the video down there. I mean, because look at this. This is what it starts like. And then,
yeah.
But the way you use the Vesica Pisces in here, the way you're utilizing the negative space to be something different that creates this third thing. I'm just such an admirer of you and your work. And look at this. You did this one out of freaking insects.
Yeah. So that's the cover. That's the cover of my Oracle deck. And that's what I started at COSM. So that was one of the paintings that I did there. So I'm trying to get a little bit more realistic, I guess, with my images in the mandalas, because, when I first started, they were mostly just abstract shapes. So, I mean, colors and shapes are very powerful. So it's not like, oh, I'm a better artist because I put real images in my thing now. But, it's just a different way to explore it. The
way you're exploring the symmetry here with the Luna moths and how their tails come down to form this Vesica Pisces within this. It's just
and like
so
all
cool.
of this it just happens. It's I don't like over plan any of these things. I get general shapes and general sizes, and that was one of the things that I experienced when I was painting the bugs, because all of the bugs they're all atop sacred geometry, and every single one of the bugs that I painted lined up with the sacred geometry, regardless of what the bug was, regardless of what the geometric shape was. They all lined up perfectly, and it was not planned. But maybe I shouldn't even say that, because it's just so perfect.
It's a knowing, but that's why if you planned it, it would have fucked it up. It's a knowing that you have that just allows it to flow out. Yeah.
And it's like, these are the shapes of nature. So of course they fit, because we are created in this structure. It goes back to the cymatics. It's like, vibration creates matter, and all of the things that are matter are taking these shapes of these vibrations.
That's it. It's like you're capturing the essence of this. The structure and the energetic structure of this particular creature. And you do this with everything. And your mandalas are the energetic structure, but then you offer nature to it and combine it and show that this is what animates it. Again, like this is the cymatics of nature is what you're depicting here. And look how perfectly these fit together. Like the color, the tone, everything about it. And then you see the similarities in the shapes, and you're like, that's incredible how nature augments but repeats. It's got a structure and a form, but it's different and unique and carries its own different signatures. Like, again, like everything about this video for audio only audience, check us out in the video. But my God, the color scheme, I look at any one of these and I fall into the world of it. It's like they're each individual little chalk drawings on the Mary Poppins sidewalk. You can hop into this bitch and be in that world. Like it's its own thing. Just truly remarkable. And
that was the goal with the mandalas, really. I mean, they're basically portals.
Right.
And those feel a little bit more tangible when you're actually in the presence of them, because they're so gigantic that you do feel like you can actually walk through them. But
Dude, what about
it
throwing
does,
one of these on the floor of like a foyer to where like that's your portal, you know, and you hop in there? Isn't that how
Yeah.
Thor leaves? He leaves a little mandala on the ground whenever he yeets out to Asgard, right?
I wouldn't know, but
What? Nerd alert.
I know.
What are you doing? Doing creative art and shit instead of watching nerd movies? Okay, whatever.
I do both.
I know. This is just so cool. Oh my God. Why does this like light? Oh my God, the little deer in here. I just noticed that.
Yeah. Oh, I guess that's a video. Yeah. So that first painting,
And the trees.
was-
Fucking shit, this is so cool. We saw you working on this in another picture.
yeah,
Dude, this one.
that's ancestors.
Why do I love this so much? I'm going to get that tattooed on my body somewhere.
Nice. That one's actually, so I
find
have Slavic ancestry. And my great grandfather came over from Russia in the early 1900s. So there's a big history of, ancestors living in the cold, and it was more of an exploration of like the winter solstice and the paganism. And so a lot of the images in that, people might look at it, and I've had a couple people say that it looks Native American because one of the images look like an eagle feather, but a lot of the images are actually inspired by like the Easter eggs, the pisanka. And so there's little stories in all of that. But
so the Pisanka is what that's mirrored off of? This.
Yeah,
This is the
yeah.
one.
So it's
Are you talking about this right here?
all of them.
Okay.
All of the images.
All of these are traditional.
Are inspired by, or the inspiration was taken from the decorative Easter eggs.
Oh, wow. So they would have this type of.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so cool. And you made it into a mandala. And of course you have a story about it. Dude, this is just, I'm just such an admirer of you and your work. This one right here, Jeannine, there's just something about this that I'm just feeling hard. I mean, just honestly, all of this. Again, this is so cymatic. And then there's this one that you did for Ben. I'm going to, bear with me, guys. They're like, oh, taking you on a ride visually. Okay. This right here is the one you did for Ben. And then same thing here. You've got, these merkabas interacting. You've got the triangles happening, which I've gotten so big into the symbolism, the circle and the squaring of the circle, and then the triangle being the transcendent of the two, right? The soul matrix and matrix or body, and then the transcendent of both being the triangle. I'm obsessed with the symbology of all of this lately, and you've just got it here. And I love how this feels 3D. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you do this on purpose where you put the shading here to make it lift off. It's just awesome, dude.
And that one's expansion. So those are actually your colors too.
Right here. Yeah, dude, it is. And this, again, negative spaces, what you do with this, the colors in this, I'm just so drawn to this. But then you have the natural tones as well. It's not super digital, right? You always add these elements of nature, even though it's really psychedelic. Wow, this is just the geometry in it. It's digital, but biological.
Yeah. And they all have stories. So it's not just.
Yeah, you don't just whip the shit out.
Yeah, shapes and colors.
This one's got toroidal field energy going with the.
It does, yeah. This was a custom piece. It's actually a triptych, all in one long plank. So that's the centerpiece.
Oh my God! I just noticed all this in the back too.
Yeah,
dude.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in there.
Oh my God, Jeannine.
So imagine that as there's 3 of them that are all different colors. It was for a family of 3. So it was like the dad, the mom, and their daughter. So that was the moms. Yeah, so that was a fun one. I love doing custom work, hint, hint.
Yeah, and you have a happy customer up there, and you do workshops and all this stuff. And if you guys want, we're going to get together with Jeannine and do an online thing. You guys let me know. I think it's like $20-$30 a person, something like that. But write us in, and we will get together and do that. Email me, expandingrealitypodcast@gmail.com. It's linked down below. And let's get together and hang out and do one of these together. Look at all these smiling people. This could be you, but happier. How about that?
That was a fun one. That was the last one that I did.
Wow. Just so cool too. And this is all coming out of your students. How did they determine? Do they have patterns to pick from, or do you say go with it?
Yeah, there's a template. You can start from a complete blank page, or different levels of template. So you can have one to just color in and choose your own colors, which is powerful enough. I mean, sometimes that can be transformative. I had one person in a workshop. She used a pre-made template, so something that I designed. She changed a few things, kind of blocked in some different things. And I always suggest that you bring in something that inspires you. So it could be, like a fabric or a wallpaper or something from nature. And she brought her iPad with a picture of a bird, and I think it was a northern flicker. So it's like brown, white, black, and red. So it's just like these really bold colors. And she nailed it. She turned my template into a mandala of this bird. It was beautiful. And it was, one of my workshop was only 2 hours long, and she's like, I'm determined to finish. She just put her head down.
Got into it.
And it was so good. And it was, even with a pre-made template, so the shapes are the same, you can turn it into something completely unique. And
that's art.
That's what I love about that.
It's what a cool realm. This place offers you so many things just to make your own and to play and to create and to be inspired by. And some of it sucks, but I mean, I've said it before that my best songs were written when my heart was pulled out of my chest and stepped on by some broad, That's when you write the best music. And it's like,
I know, seriously.
Why does it have to be? And then you get over the why and you stop listening to Cure songs high volume, and then you get over it and you move on. And you just listen to Cure at high volume because you like it.
Yeah.
This is beautiful. Will you just talk about this for a minute?
That one's behind me, actually.
Oh,
so that's one of the bugs.
One of the bugs.
It's the death's head hawk moth. So that's the one that gets pulled out of the person's throat in Silence of the Lambs. So I think everybody knows that one. It's like they're just a cool looking moth,
dude. Yeah.
But every deck needs a death card, right? And death symbolizes it's death and rebirth. It's the closing of one door, opening of the other. It's not like you're gonna be deceased. And then, I needed it to be dark and dramatic. And then you've got Pluto back there, who also symbolizes death and rebirth.
Ooh, and the blue and the red. I love your choice of red shift, blue shift on there. Don't make me go. I will go off on it like a nerd.
Well, that's just. I mean, that's like when you just look up Pluto. I mean, who knows? Like, if it's accurate, NASA stuff. We won't go into that, but
it has nothing to do with it. It's a red shift, blue shift thing, and this is why I wear a purple wristband. Is because the combination of this realm blue, under realm Summerland rather red, the underside of the toroidal field, the inertial plane. If you combine those two, we create the crown, which is purple, right? So I'm huge into red and blue, and it's all over the realm.
Nice, yeah. So that's the symbology of that one.
It's so cool. It is so gnarly. And you need a death card. You nailed it with this. It is just, it's got metal music playing in the background as you flip it over.
I know, so right? Cool. It's very Scorpio. It's like very...
Yeah. And then this is fun and unassuming. This doesn't even look like a cartoon. It looks like a cartoon. Like this is real.
That's a leaf hopper. Yeah. All of these are based off of real. I'd go and look for photos of the bug that I wanted to paint, and they're usually a combination of like 3 or 4 different photos. And then I would, they evolved over time. I started with, different images in the mandalas. And then it turned into adding botanicals to some of them, different elements that correspond.
And I love some of the flowers you've added to these, like these little thistles with this bee. It's perfect.
Yeah. And like this one, the thistle just came from me watching bumblebees. And there was a thistle at the end of my road at my last house. And I would, in the late summer, in Maine, when all the purple flowers come out, is like in August. And there was just this massive thistle, and the bumblebees would love. They just love, like, it's like a mattress of nectar, and it was just like watching pure joy.
And they get on it and roll around in it.
It was like a cat like kneading a blanket. It was just this bumblebee just loving on this thistle. So that's why I needed to put thistles with the bumblebee.
Appropriate. And then you splash the colors into the background. You tie it all together. It's all in the same world that belongs there with all the math.
Yeah.
It's all together. And yes, you have such a beautiful eye for anatomy on this. And this is something I always brag about you on, is that your attention to detail, but then how you also make it so animated and bring it to life. And you really just show how beautiful nature is already. You're just giving us a different look at it and your interpretation of it, which is awesome.
It's definitely gotten me, I don't know, enjoying bugs a lot more, appreciating their value. Quite a few of the bugs I added because they're native to our area. I don't know if they're up north and I just never noticed, but I'd be like laying in the sun on the deck, and that's how I discovered a Midas fly. I had no idea what a Midas fly was. I did not know they existed. And then I was like, what is this purple bug? And so I discovered some different insects just by going out and looking.
Having them land on you. Yeah.
And
be like, hey, I exist.
Literally, there's a pair of dragonflies that are kind of in our front yard. And I've just been going out and putting my hand out, and one will land on me. And I actually had a really cool interaction with one. We just checked each other out for a little bit, and then it went right off. But just appreciating how their feet feel when they land on your fingertips. And it's really, it's just this magical experience. And they're just these incredible creatures. Like a dragonfly is just out of this world. I mean, they all are. But
I love dragonflies. Whenever
when
I'm
they
mowing,
look at you, it's like,
oh, dude, their eyes are incredible.
Is this?
Yeah, and they look goofy and sort of curious and dopey, but they're amazing and majestic at the same time. You're just I'm disarmed but whimsified by this at the same time. They're gorgeous. Yeah. And I love them because when I mow, they'll form up, because when I mow, it kicks up bugs and stuff, right, that they eat. And so they'll form, and I picture us being like a little squadron, and they'll fucking be right with me, and they dip down, and it's great. And there's a guy who actually clips a fake dragonfly onto his bill cap of his hat and lets it spring around, and it keeps all the mosquitoes and things around.
That's trending right now.
Amazing.
I can't even go out in my yard right now because of the mosquitoes. I'm an O blood type and they love me. So my blood is like sweet nectar for them, and they can smell me from a mile away. So I want to put dragonfly decoys all over the place.
Dude, totally. That's a great one. And then we put a little bit of coffee grounds inside of a ceramic bowl and lit it on fire like incense, and it burns the coffee off. It doesn't smell like you would think, like burnt coffee. It just smells like burning. But it allegedly is a great, and because I'm like you, I'm like, get off me, but I'm not trying to sit here and murder all of you. You know what I mean? We have the frogs, we have the...
I just I'll be out there for 10 minutes and have just welts all over my body, and it's miserable.
And I love it. And we're just shout out Ben here. He is so supportive of you. Every time I see something, he's liked it too. He's just such a sweetheart.
Of course.
I love Ben.
Of course.
Love you, Ben. Shout out.
He's downstairs.
Shout out to Whisker Biscuits here too. Come on.
That's Ziggy. He's actually right over in the corner staring at ants on the floor, because I have this giant black ants.
There was a friend of ours who held up a little kitten on one of our shows, Jessica, shout out. And she said, I said, what's his name? And she said, Freddie. And I said, how about Freddie Percury? And she fucking, she's like, yeah, we're doing that.
That's so good. Sometimes Ziggy comes and visits, but he's occupied.
Dude, these are so cool. Well, do you want to talk about your deck a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go over your newest deck, because I'm so excited about this. And then we'll kick it over into the afterthought here in a little bit. And you guys are definitely going to want to check that out. We are going to go over bugs and UFOs. What's the relationship? The Brevinigoff message. It's crazy. Cavity structure effect. It's pretty interesting that these little things, how they fly. You brought up the bumblebee. Allegedly, they're more, there you go. They're more efficient. They weigh less when carrying pollen, which they shouldn't, because they've added mass, but they weigh less, and they're more efficient when flying while carrying pollen.
I did just see a video the other day about bumblebees, the way they fly, because they kind of defy physics. They're like heavier than what their wings should be able to carry.
Yeah.
But it's all about resonant vibration. They just vibrate to the resonance of the air around them, and that's how they hover and float. And it's pretty amazing.
It's pretty amazing.
They're incredible. They're incredible.
It like negates gravity. It switches it off. The resonant frequency switches gravity off, and then there's like, oh, okay, it's no big deal now. And then the wings that they do have propel them with no problem because there's no resistance or very little resistance, much less.
That it's just like paddling.
Do you know that jet fuel might be a complete hoax? And that jets probably utilize the same thing. We're going to talk about it. All right, guys, sign up to support your favorite show down in the show description. We'll do that here in a little bit. But let's talk about this. How cool is this?
I would have loved to hear what my dad would say about that as an aeronautics engineer.
And it's something that we talked about on, when was this? Frequency Theorist. It's actually linked down below. And if you guys want to take advantage of Frequency Theorist, it is only hosted on Patreon, but it is 100% free. So go check it out. And on Frequency Theorists, it was Derek Lamping, Holy Trinity 369, that was talking about this. And he said, yeah, probably at about 33,000 feet, ironically, maybe, is where jets sort of just stop using fuel and they start running off of this cavity structure effect. And so it's kind of yes and. It's that the fuel that they use gets them to the altitude, but that they don't need it beyond there. And that's where the discrepancy in the amount of fuel needed per trip comes in. And we'll talk about it. It's really interesting.
Interesting.
All right. So with this Wings of Transformation, we had your Mandala deck came out first. That's the one that I'm holding here, guys. And it's linked on our website down below. Check that out. So talk to us about this.
Yeah. Well, and the Mandala deck was like an accident. I was creating the descriptions. I know.
You were accident
right?
prone, but in the best way possible. Like I think you've redefined accident. And I
was making website descriptions for all my paintings because they all have meaning. And I was already working on the bug deck, and I was like, oh shit, I've got a whole deck here. And I was waiting to complete. I did a second chakra series. So I have 14 paintings that are just chakras. So the second one was like a different expression. And it was actually Ben that kind of gave me the nudge to do that. And I was like waiting to finish that 36th painting. And then it was just going to be a little bonus. I was like, well, I'm working on this other deck. Maybe I'll have 36 extra cards to go as a companion. So that's why the Mandala deck actually has a bug. It has a moth on the back because it was just going to be a companion. And then it told me as I was working on it, like, no,
this is its own album. Yeah.
This is no, we're separate. Yeah. We do our own thing. So it's still got the moth on the back, but it is its own entity. And I added some extras because I did only have like 36 original paintings. And then there's some paintings that I did at workshops and some other stuff. So they're not all mandalas. There's like a few extras that, like mushrooms and stuff. But so the Wings deck started because of one of my mandalas. So it was the transformation painting, which we affectionately refer to as the pink one.
The pink one.
The pink one.
Now, is there a standard for decks? Like how many cards are in normal decks? Like tarot has a certain
number. Not really.
Number,
I mean, you see like 52, 54.
Okay.
So that's
because they used to represent the cards, like the playing cards, as tarot, right before they made tarot.
And tarot is 78. But I've seen smaller decks that are like 36. I've seen larger decks. I mean, as I was doing research for the Kickstarter, there was a deck that had like 300 cards. Like that's a little excessive. Lord.
Come on, that's 3 decks.
I can barely shuffle my 78 cards, but I was just going with 52 as a standard. And then
you're the Dexpert. I figure I can ask you these things. I'd never gotten a chance to ask a question.
My knowledge base is part just like being neurodivergent and like latching onto one thing at a time. So I used to joke that my knowledge base was a mile wide and an inch deep.
Oh, I love that.
I think it's more like I will have hyperfixations that pull me in and then I'll gather that, and then I just get bored with it.
Yep. Same. I have the same autism as you. Yep.
Yeah. It's that like ADHD, like whatever we want to call it, whatever.
We want to call it a superpower.
And so,
if we're honest.
so the Mandala deck ended up being a 53 card deck because we've got Brandon's
Shout out.
Be Mindful represent. But it started with the transformation. So I had moved into my brand new 450 square foot art studio in Maine. And it was like the summer of 2020. It was like July 2020. I made $800 that month. And I was cleaning the same space. It was at the yoga studio where I was teaching, and I was just like mopping the floor, and I got a text from the landlord, and they said, there's a space available if you hear of anybody. And I was like mopping the floor, and immediately the voice came in that said, you need to use this space. I like slapped it away. You can't afford that. And then I just couldn't get it out of my mind. And so I somehow found a way to move into the space. And I immediately got a couple custom pieces that helped me pay rent. And so that winter, with my brand new, beautiful art studio with all of my paintings up on the wall, I decided that I needed an actual easel. If I'm going to be a real artist, I need to get an easel. And then once I got the easel, I was like, well, I need to make a real painting. Not that any of my paintings weren't actually real at that time, but I needed to level up. So that's how the transformation painting came about. And within that painting is just all the symbolism of transformation. So it started with the emperor moth, and then it's got a hummingbird, some butterfly weed, king protea, some other elements, and we're just calling it transformation. But it unlocked this absolute love of moths, so I started painting moths. So the first card in the deck is the female of the emperor moth. So you'll see the imagery like as you scroll through some of these pages. So that was the first card, and I started just painting bugs and exploring those, just as a casual. Like, these are cool. Why? Let's see what I can do with these.
Yeah.
And they were just little. You know, they're 12 inches. They're not large paintings like my big mandalas. So they're just like quick explorations of doing something different that's not a mandala. And I'm looking for there it is. So that's the first one of that. So it started with that. And then I did a painting of a jewel scarab for my nephew, another moth painting for my niece. I think I did the cicada fairly soon after that. So at that point, I had a collection against the wall in my studio, and Ben came to visit one day and suggested that I make an oracle deck. And that's kind of the first appearance of the oracle deck. And at that point, it was, the idea got in my mind that it was going to be an animal oracle deck. So, you know, I was toying with that idea. And then another friend of mine came to the studio to buy a piece of art, and she said, you know, if you make, here's Ziggy visiting.
Hey Ziggy, what's up, homie?
Ziggy. If you made an insect or bug deck, I would totally buy it. And it's kind of ironic that this friend has like completely like disappeared from my life.
Dude, I had the same thing happen. As he got planted for publishing, we were going to publish this person's book, and then I haven't talked to them since. But we
Weird.
started the publishing house and we're publishing other books.
Interesting.
It planted the seed for it. I was thinking about that the other day, which is so funny you say that.
And then I started brainstorming with my brother. I was like, hey, I'm into bugs now, because he, you know, like siblings just torture each other, and he used to like throw bugs at me and like watch me freak out. And I was like, hey, I'm into bugs now. And he's like, cool. And then he just started sending me pictures of like different spiders, because he knows that spiders were the thing that I was not like especially into. And he was like, okay, but you can't just have a spider. Like there's so many different arachnid varieties. So that's when I was like, all right, so it's just winged insects. So that's all we're doing. And I started just collecting information about, all right, how can I organize this? So it turned into 4 suits. There's the butterflies and moths, which is Lepidoptera. There's bees and wasps, which is Hymenoptera. There's Coleoptera, which are beetles, winged beetles, which I don't know if they're beetles that don't have wings. And then there's another that I originally just called miscellaneous, because I was like, I don't know what to call this, because it's just a collection of others. Like a dragonfly and a grasshopper and the cicada and all the lacewings and the leafhoppers. I've got a collection. That's what I'm looking up here. Praying mantis, and like all the ones that don't fit into those other 3 categories, those orders of insect. And like it's like accidental entomology. Like just starting to like. Even
that word. Accidentally incidental maybe. Accidental?
Yeah, I just fell into it. So, you know, after you start painting, after you paint 52 bugs, actually, I think I've painted a total of like 57 bugs.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Which means studied them, spent time over them, looked up multiple resource images, maybe found one crawling on your leg. Look at that. That is awesome. Buckeye butterfly.
Well, and that's how I picked a lot of them. You know, I'd be out in the yard and one would be crawling on me. There's a beetle in there that Ben was just standing out in the yard, and he sent me a picture, and he was like, this just smacked me in the forehead. And it's this like giant beetle, and it like he was just standing there, and it just like flew into his head. So
what a way to enter your life, you know, and the deck, right? And to get its claim in history is to smack Ben in the head.
So yeah, it just, there are definitely things that I would have done differently as far as organization. Because
I was about to compliment you on the organization, honestly.
It did come together quite nicely. But yeah, there are things. As I completed it, I started brainstorming like, oh, it'd be really great if I could have all 78 of the tarot cards represented, which might be coming as a bonus, but I'm kind of done painting bugs at this point.
You know, they call it abandoned works of art, right? Because there's no such thing as a finished work of art. Right. You could always add more. You could always change. You could delete. You could remove. That's the thing about an artist is not only can you create this, you know when to stop. You knew to take this shadow here and no further. This lived. I mean,
that's a digital, like, you know.
Well, on your works, you do the same on your works.
I do the shadow.
There you go. Yeah. See here, you do the shadow just so to where it's. This leg is higher than this one, and it shows this differential. But that's a beautiful touch that, I mean, you had to spend time on and think about. Same here with the front legs. It's just so cool. I just have, again, such great appreciation for what you do.
Nice. Thank you.
And, you know, this is another thing I'm going to brag about you is your spreads. You have these different navigating, for instance here. Navigating challenges spread, where the purpose of this spread is to identify the heart of a current challenge, gain clarity on obstacles, and uncover the tools needed to move forward with resilience. And then it shows you exactly how to do it. You lay it out. Root card of the challenge is what the core issue or underlying cause of your current difficulty. Card 2 would be the obstacle, the specific block or challenge that is standing in your way. Card 3 would be the resource. What inner strength or external support can you draw to overcome the obstacle? Card 4 then would be the path forward, which what action, perspective shift will help you to navigate through this challenge. And then the fifth card in that would be the lesson. What wisdom can you take from the experience to guide you in the future? This is so cool. It's such an intentional And again, it lays it all out. It shows you, and then shows you've got a variety. How many of these different spreads did you have in here?
There are 7 spreads.
I love this one too.
The first one is the interview spread, which is, I believe you've done with the Mandala Deck. I try to give that out to every deck. And that's just a spread that I didn't invent. I found it and I liked it. And it's a really good way to connect with your deck, because each deck will have a different intention, a different way of communicating with you. So this is a really good way to feel into it before you start working with it more in depth. And my example for how these decks work differently. So I acquired a tarot deck from my printer. I ordered a sample pack from them just to see, what their paper was and everything, the card weights. And I just expected, like a handful of cards, and they sent full decks. So one of these decks was a tarot deck based off of the Tarot de Marseille, which I had never worked with. And then after I found the artist online, it turns out they're from Portland, Maine. I'm like, we probably know some of the same people. It's weird.
Holy shit. Have you contacted him?
I have, yeah. He's not very heavily on social media. But I was drawn to the deck at first, before I even knew anything about who created it. And I did the interview spread, and it basically told me, you're going to get really direct information. And tarot is kind of like that anyway. I just saw a meme yesterday of an oracle deck versus a tarot deck calling you out on your shit. And it's the first one is a warm hug is the oracle deck. It just and that's what my Mandala deck is. The information, it might call you out on your shit, but it's in the nicest, loving, maternal way.
Riddled with tact. Yes,
the
ma'am.
tarot deck will punch you in the face.
It's your brick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mandala's a feather. This is your brick.
It's the tough love. But also they have different personalities. And so I had a thing. It was a decision to make, and I consulted my cards, and I started with the tarot, and I did 6 readings and pulled different cards each time, 3 cards per reading. And they all kind of said the same thing, but with different cards. And then I tried my Mandala deck, and it was basically just no, we don't work with that. That's not a question for us. And you can tell when you pull them if it actually resonates or if the pull is just kind of empty. And I don't know how to explain it, but you can tell. If you're tapped in and connected with your deck, you'll know when it's just no, that's not a question for us. Or it'll get very vague. I had a couple of readings. I offered an add-on of a personal reading, just a 3 card. And so now that the Kickstarter is over, I sent out emails asking if there's any question specifically that you'd like to address, or if you just want a general reading. And a couple of people wrote back saying that they wanted life purpose. What is my life purpose? And one of them was specifically what does my future self want me to know about my life purpose, which is really interesting. And there's only so much that you can say in 3 cards. And Amy talks about this too. In Akashic readings, the number one question that people ask is life purpose. And you're never going to get a direct answer to that. It's it'll dance around it. It'll tell you the energy that you need to connect to, but it's not going to tell you what your life purpose is, which is really interesting. So when I got those 2, I was okay, but you're probably not going to like the answer.
Well, it's the perfect answer though, isn't it? Because our life's purpose is not determined. It's for us to determine ourselves and for us to discover.
Yeah.
And may change constantly. And then you figure out that your life's purpose was this for a little bit, which led you to that for a little bit, which led you to that for a little bit. And how do you quantify that? How do you explain that to somebody? Just go work at Wendy's for a year. You're going to see it's going to be okay. And then don't feel bad about it. And you're going to unplug from that real quick. But how do you say that? It's part of your ride,
Right.
but it's all part of the ride.
Right.
Very interesting. And of course, that's the question, right? But it's the one that can't be answered,
Yeah.
Or that
It's
you have
really
to
interesting.
answer.
But I mean, ask it. Go for
Yeah,
it.
fuck it.
And
Because
see,
it'll lead
see
you
what comes
to
up.
the direction of it, right? Or it'll lead
Right.
you, it'll lead you to the answer, but it's not going to tell you the answer.
Right. Yeah. It'll give you the energy to connect into it. It'll maybe give you suggestions of patterns that you need to release. A different way to look, like a different direction. Yeah.
Beautiful. It's all just so cool. And I love your work. I really do. Just everything about it's so intentional. You just bring such vibe to everything you do, has such intention and vibe behind it. And you can feel it. You really can. You can tell you're one of the real deals out here, and it's awesome. And just thank you for shining so bright.
Yeah. I try.
You do not, dear. You are a Deuceratops. If you tried, I wouldn't have made the comment. But what I will say is, let's get to our afterthought here. We'll take a quick break here, letting the folks know again all the ways to find you, your website, and all are going to be linked down below, including your former appearances on the show. I like to do that so you guys can get some context of how far we've come here. From your first episode to your current episode. This one is 336. It's been a minute. It's been wild. So I just love that we've all grown together and that we get to watch each other grow and support each other in these really cool ways. I will again shout you out and tell you how grateful I am for the covers that you've done. The other one I have over there, I didn't grab it, but you've done 2 of these, and thank you so much. Both are found in your insect deck. And it is interesting too, the way that I was hearing you explain that is you can go to grandma for advice or you can go to grandpa for advice. And they're going to give you 2 completely different things, but maybe get advice from both. And so sit there, pull your spreads from both, and perhaps that can give you a well-rounded sort of interaction. But I do love the personalities that are mixed within them. It's like I said, we do this when guests come over. We have this, and I went and grabbed this from our living room. This is right there front and center. And so when guests come over, we're like, hey, do you want to pull a card? So Stellium 7, Don Lester, they all pull cards from your deck when they come over. Yeah. So we just love and adore you, and just thank you for existing, honestly, and being so cool and choosing to share your shit with the world, because you didn't have to, but you did. And so thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we get to our afterthought, tell us what gets you out of bed every morning, if you don't mind, and keeps you moving forward.
Yeah. I knew this question was coming. I mean, it's hard some days, right? I think for the most part, it's just seeing what's next. Because, there's been some magic that's been experienced that's very potent and tangible, and even just this conversation, So, yeah, it's really interesting, just being being a human in this time, because you're like, what am I doing? This life is so strange. It doesn't make sense. And so I go through days where I just want to like not be in it. But yeah, just seeing what's next, and I guess seeing like, how can we hack this matrix? What's possible?